Welcome to the Adulting Demystified podcast with your host, Odelia Goldberg. In each episode, we'll have subject matter experts discuss things that most people don't know, but probably should. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on our website, ogoldberglaw.com. Now, here's the host of Adulting Demystified, Odelia Goldberg.
Hello and welcome. Today is a special day because we have with us my good friend Adam. And Adam is a criminal defense attorney. Yay!
Oh, we have the fun stuff. Hey, Odelia. How you doing?
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. Just a brief intro into what we're doing here. We're talking a little bit about common misconceptions that people get wrong. So, I'd like to give you an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll jump into some things that people kind of get, not as correct as we want them to when it comes to criminal defense.
Oh, yes. And in criminal defense, we have a ton. So, for everybody listening, I'm Adam Rossen with the Rossen Law Firm. We've grown quite a bit. We have offices all throughout South Florida. Our main base of operations is in Fort Lauderdale and Boca. We're actually just bought a brand new office, it's not brand new. We bought an office condo in Boca. So we're going to move the main base of ops to Boca. We're still going to have a big presence in Fort Lauderdale, and we're even expanding more into Miami and more into Palm Beach, and even larger than that. But it's undergoing renovations, and hopefully that'll be done by the end of the year. So we're very excited. We have some really cool ideas and plans for this space. We're going to build a mock courtroom. We're going to / event center, and we want to be able to host a lot of events, networking functions, variety of different things, because we're out in the community really helping people. And as of right now, we're at 6 lawyers, about 23 people in the firm, which doesn't make us that big compared to some of the mega firms, but for criminal defense, we're one of the biggest in the state of Florida, and I think the biggest in South Florida.
Amazing. Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
I think in terms of criminal attorneys, right, because attorneys could be kind of defined by their subject areas, it's typically a smaller, a single, maybe potentially with a paralegal or two, but you don't find such a large organization in the criminal space, I find.
Right. And we've built that organically over the years, and for a few reasons. Number one, people want to hire us. And if we want to serve and help a lot of people in our community, well, then we need to grow to continue to serve the need, because we do a great job. But also, we wanted to be strong and powerful. We have a lot of passion behind what we do. There's so much in criminal defense that's more than just about helping one person here or there. It's about fighting back against injustice and the government and different things. So we want to have that powerful platform that we can use to help many people throughout our community. And it's been one amazing, fun ride.
I
And
love
here
that.
we are.
Economies of scale. That's amazing. So let's dive in. Why don't you give us a common misconception, things that people kind of get wrong? I was telling you that in my estate planning world, a lot of times people don't know the difference between a trust and a will, or they think that a will would avoid probate, or they don't quite understand the importance of beneficiary designation. So I do quite a lot of demystifying these common misconceptions. And I figure that probably every area has these things. So is there something in the criminal law field defense that people get wrong constantly?
There's a lot. So the first thing that comes to mind is, well, that only guilty people get arrested. Okay. And what people don't understand, because we're conditioned by watching Law and Order. And the great thing about Law and Order, whether it's the OG regular one, whether it is SVU or any of the cop shows, they find the killer or solve the crime in 60 minutes or less. And
Yes.
that's not the way it works in real life. The police only need probable cause to arrest anybody for any crime. Probable cause, to put percentages on it, it's it can be as low as 40%.
Wow.
And most crimes are opinion crimes. So when we're talking about that, what we see, and look, I was a prosecutor, for a few years, and I've had this firm for almost 20 years. And what the cops do is they just say, well, do I have probable cause to make an arrest? Yes. If so, I make the arrest. And then that's it. And then the rest is for the criminal justice system to decide and deal with, instead of how can I solve this crime,
Mm.
this case, and how can I figure out the truth? And
Right.
they don't do that.
Right, right. Yeah. Everything I know about the criminal justice system is from Law and Order and a little
Right.
bit of SWAT. So definitely, definitely, I hear you. Wow. So I guess your job is really challenging because just about anyone, well, not just about anyone, but it's kind of, yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess I didn't realize that either.
Right. Well, the bottom line on this is it's so easy to be arrested based on he said, she said allegations, especially if we're talking about some kind of, whether it's a domestic dispute or an argument or some kind of situation with people maybe out at a bar, out at a club. It doesn't have to be domestic related. Um, Also, when we're talking about drugs, a lot of times if there's drugs in the car and there's 2 or 3 people, if the cops want to arrest everybody, they will.
Oh, wow.
Especially if the drugs are on the floorboard or not like on somebody's pocket.
Mm,
And when we're talking about DUI, which DUI is an everybody crime,
mhm.
it's a 100% pure opinion. You cannot be given a breath test, a urine test, or a blood test. And forget about blood tests for right now, because that's a whole different can of worms. But you don't give any of those until an officer first makes a determination based on his or her opinion that there's probable cause to believe that your normal faculties are impaired, despite the fact they don't know you, they've never met you before. And its probable cause is, again, 40% based on their opinion.
Wow.
So it's very easy for some people to be arrested.
Wow.
And we see that, but most people don't think that, right? They go, oh, Adam, you represent criminals or bad people. And so it's so easy for people to be arrested. Most of our clients at the firm are good people. Our firm's motto is we help good people when bad things happen so they
Mhm,
can achieve their best future.
mhm.
And by doing so, we talk about the past, the present, and the future, and what we're going to do to help our people. And so it's there's there's so much that needs to be demystified with the criminal justice system when we're talking about how low of an evidentiary standard it is to make a life altering decision to arrest somebody.
Yeah, and even if it's not like, potentially someone in their 50s, 60s, even though it could be, it certainly could be a child in their 20s, right? That doesn't always make the best decisions or hang out with the best people or, so all these things could definitely happen to pretty much anyone. I guess you're kind of opening my eyes to something I hadn't considered before also.
Right. And let me give you a specific type of case too when we're talking about younger people.
Right.
So since the Stoneman Douglas, incident, right, shooting, we've seen a huge rise in juveniles being arrested for a second-degree felony of making terroristic threats or, written threats to kill. It doesn't even
Oh,
have to be terroristic threats. So Snapchat, Instagram, we had a 12-year-old girl basically threatened to harm or kill one of her classmates on social media. Things that, what is it? What's the saying? But for the grace of God go I, or something like that, that we may have done in our mischievous
yeah,
preteen or
sure.
teenage years. Everybody in the world has said something or multiple things that they regret. Now, is it to that level of seriousness? Well, okay, maybe not. But are we really in the business of arresting 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-olds for
Mhm.
saying something like that over social media? And yeah, they're arrested and charged in the juvenile facility, but that's terrifying
Yeah,
for children to be arrested for something that's so serious. So
yeah.
even that, as you bring up, right, old versus young, we've seen a huge rise in this over the years, especially since the Douglas shooting.
Yeah, wow. I guess I was lucky that there was no computer, no internet when I was growing up.
Right,
Nothing is documented. That's very scary. Yeah.
right. And then those things, unfortunately do follow them. And we've had cases where 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds have been charged as adults for those type of
Wow.
things as well. So now it's more than just going to the JAC, which is the Juvenile Assessment Center, and being
Mm.
charged as a juvenile. Now it's being put in adult jail with adult penalties, a whole nother ballgame. It's very
Well,
serious stuff.
yeah, I'm glad you're out there doing this type of work. That's definitely a need in society that I didn't even know we had. We had, honestly. Wow.
Right.
Is there another common misconception that you find that people have regarding this type of law?
Oh yeah, we got a ton, but so the next one that comes to mind is, well, Adam, if I'm why wouldn't I talk if I'm innocent?
Mm,
Only guilty people, right, ask for lawyers. And
right.
won't the cops think that I'm guilty if I shut up and quote unquote lawyer up? So we get that all the time. Now, why is that? Well, most people are psychologically conditioned to talk their way out of things, and
Sure.
a lot, and right, and most people are also psychologically conditioned, and both these from our early ages, because I have a
Mhm.
2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and both of them, even my 2-year-old's trying to starting now to learn to talk his way out of things. My 5-year-old's been talking his way out of things for a while. I guess he takes after me, but we also are psychologically conditioned to defer to authority. So when you have an authoritarian figure, a cop, and whether we talk our way out or we're just deferring to them and maybe we're apologetic or whatever, right? It's like, well, look, if I'm innocent, then I'm going to talk and I'm going to tell you,
Yeah.
right? Why
Yeah.
why would I lawyer up or be quiet? And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Mm.
So, Odelia, I'll give you an example of a case that I always like to tell people. We got hired a few years ago on a very serious case. It was a leaving the scene of an accident causing serious bodily injury.
Mm.
Now, it's a little, I mean, well, let me paint the picture. So my client was driving a Suburban. It's a 22-foot long SUV truck, right? We all know what a Suburban is, how big it is. It's about 6:30 at night. He's driving west in his neighborhood, and he lives in Sunrise, but it's one of those neighborhoods where the road it's not a main road, but it's still cars are going 35, 40 on that road. Okay. It's an access road that will take you to like Pine Island.
Mm.
Okay. To one of the main roads. And he's heading westbound. The sun is in his eyes. And we see this, we know this happened not only because multiple people testified to it, but there was Ring video camera that showed the incident from far
Wow.
away. And as he's driving, he swerves or he drifts. It wasn't a swerve. He drifts into a driveway. Excuse me. Hits a trash can and drifts back into the road. Goes about 3 more blocks, drives home. Gets home, looks at the front of his car and was like, "Oh my god, I hit a trash can. Okay, there's a little damage, whatever. No big deal." He ate his dinner and he went home. And at midnight, he gets a knock on his door. And it's the police, Sunrise Police Department. And they say, "Sir, were you involved in a hit and run?" And he goes, "Well, no, I gently, nudged, bumped into a trash can. But, there's a little bit of damage in my car, but it's fine. It's no big deal." And they said, "Well, sir, you hit somebody." And he goes,
Oh,
No, I didn't. I hit a trash can."
mm.
And what happened was there was a 21-year-old man who was outside the house on his driveway talking to his uncle. Him and the uncle were having a conversation. The 21-year-old was crouched down behind the trash bin at the same time,
Wow. What a
picking up,
lucky. Wow.
right, picking up trash from his driveway to put in the trash bin When my client slid over, hit the trash can, hit him, he had
Oh,
no idea. And in the video, you see the uncle running after the Suburban for 5 seconds, probably making motions, gestures, and that was really it. Now, why is this important? Okay. So the cop said, "Well, sir, will you come down to the Sunrise Police Department, give us a statement?" He goes, "Absolutely. Oh my God, is he okay?" And we didn't know at the time. Well, I wasn't the lawyer initially. Um, they didn't know if he was going to live or die,
wow.
the 21-year-old. So my client goes in and tells the truth, the 100% God's honest truth, or whatever you believe in, right? I hit a trash can. I didn't know. I didn't see this person. I did not have this intent. No way, no how. And the police, they did write in their reports, look, he didn't have any warrants. He didn't have a suspended license. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't on drugs. Those are the most common reasons that somebody would get into a hit and run.
Sure.
Okay. So there was none of those. And what happened was about a month later, they arrested him for a felony that
Wow.
he was looking at 15 years in prison.
Oh my God.
And here's the thing. I always tell people there's a difference between what you know, what's the truth, or what you think, what's the truth, and what's provable in a court of law.
Right.
Now, it was his Suburban. We think he was driving. Now we know he was driving, but could they have proven it in a court of law? Because guess what? It was dusk. It was 6:30 at night and the sun was setting and it was blinding everybody in the eyes. Okay. The the people who were running after him, the uncle, couldn't identify him. Never
Mm,
saw into the car. Never had a conversation. So how do we know it wasn't his wife? It wasn't his daughter. His DNA is going to be on the car, on the Suburban, but it's his car. Okay. So how are we going to know these things? And one of the things you have to prove is that the defendant is the one who committed the crime,
wow.
not that it was his car, that he was behind the wheel. So had he lawyered up, he never would have been arrested. Now, ultimately, justice prevailed, the truth prevailed. We beat the case. Terrible. It was a terrible accident.
Sure.
Doesn't make it a crime.
Right.
Terrible accident, not a crime. But he never would have had to go through that
Wow.
with the money that we charged him, going to jail, getting a mugshot, going through all that if he just said, "I'm not going to speak to you without my lawyer," because he thought, which is right. He goes, "I'm a good person. I
Mhm.
didn't intend to do anything wrong. I have the truth on my side. So
Right.
let me cooperate." Totally bit him in the butt. So it's little bit of a long story, but I think it really
Sure.
really shows the impact of how serious some things can be if you don't, lawyer up and you quote unquote do the right thing.
Yeah, so I guess you're right. We are kind of conditioned to talk our way out of it and to, defer to authority. And also we have this, I guess, a misconception that, if it was an accident, well, of course, everyone's going to believe us and understand that without knowing the law and the basic elements that the police have to prove, then it's impossible to know what we can and can't kind of share with them and tell them and admit to, so to speak.
Right.
So is the message that we need to lawyer up anytime there's a potential arrest? Is that the
Yes. Yes, because look, and I don't even like using the phrase lawyer up.
yeah,
You're going to want professional legal advice. And that's what the cops do when they get in trouble,
yeah,
right? So anybody listening to this, if you have a friend who's a police officer, ask them. And that's a great way to test their friendship. Because if they're really your friend, they're going to tell you, don't ever speak without a lawyer.
right.
They're going to tell you that. And if they really are more team cop than team you, then they're going to tell you, "Oh, no, 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 no problem." Right. And I guarantee 95% of them will say, "Yeah, I wouldn't talk to anybody under any circumstances." They're not
Really,
going in to talk without their union rep and their lawyer on
right,
any type of investigation or issue. No way.
right,
So why
right.
would you?
Amazing. Wow.
But
Well,
it's
thank
easier said than done, Odelia, right?
yeah,
Easier said than done.
really. I feel
Well,
like that's such a obvious answer to a
well,
problem.
people are scared because they go, well, isn't it just going to make it worse? Or there is that fear of an intimidating officer, right?
Mm,
So a lot of people aren't headstrong enough. Look, we have a lot of people that are just based on your personality or behavior patterns where you might just be a very compliant person,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Feel like everyone should have a criminal defense attorney in their phone. That person should be you.
Yes.
But, regardless of where you live, what state you live, I do feel like in an emergency situation, this is one of those phone calls, right? The criminal defense attorneys that I know give out their cell phones because they know that they're, need to be reached at all hours in the event of an emergency. So, from my perspective, it's, I guess maybe because I'm a lawyer and I'm in that world, then it's you got to phone a friend. That's my friend.
Right. Yeah. I always say, I'm like, you don't need us until, things hit the fan and you need us. And yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. That's a good one. What else do you have? Any other misconceptions?
Oh, oh, let's see. I mean, a lot of people, well, some people will say, well, if I wasn't drinking and, if I'm not DUI, then I should give a breath test.
Okay.
And we always tell people, you know, I can't legally tell people to never give a breath test because if it's the second time you refuse a breath test, it's a crime.
Oh
But what
wow.
I always tell people is if you know and understand the law and the rules, you can make your own intelligent decision.
Hmm.
And so a common misconception is that if you haven't been drinking, you can just go ahead and give those chemical tests. They're often wrong. There's a lot of issues and problems with it. And look, 3 times in my career, 3 times, I've had a client who did the field sobriety exercises, failed, gave a breath test, all zeros, still gave a urine test and was clean, still got arrested, still went through the process.
Wow.
And we had to go ahead and we won all three. And those were fairly easy, but it happens.
Yeah.
It's rare, but it happens. So that's something as well. That is a very, common misconception.
So is the idea to call you first before the breathalyzer test? Is that
Yes, you definitely you want to call an attorney right away. And look, and what people need to really understand is that it's on one hand, it's legal to drink and then drive. It is. You can't be over the legal limit or impaired.
oh,
But then again, the cops will think that you're impaired off of even one drink or two drinks. So you really never should drink and then drive. But if there's ever a situation like that, you have to really understand you're going to jail. And it's more about preserving the case and winning in the long run than
mm,
winning in the short run or
gotcha.
trying to talk your way out of something in the short term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense because, a normal-minded person will think, I have nothing to hide. Let me
Right.
just exactly what happened. But while explaining and telling the story, you're giving information that later you can't undo and say, well, that wasn't an element of what happened. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely.
How interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
have
never
all the stories.
think about.
Right.
Amazing. Do you love what you do, helping people?
Yes, I'm sure as anybody listening to this, you can see, look, I have tons of energy. We love helping people. Yes, we love criminal defense at my firm, but more than that, we love helping people. And too much in the criminal law or criminal defense industry, it's a love of criminal defense and not a love of helping people. And I think that's a big differentiator with me and my firm.
Amazing. Do you, because I guess you have such a volume of people that you help, you probably work with so many police officers and so many departments, you're actually probably able to kind of get a picture of what's going on, kind of a broad view of the landscape that most people don't see. And you're probably able to leverage that view to kind of help your clients too, I would imagine.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And look, also the fact of me being a prosecutor. So I'll give you an example. Um, when I was looking for a house, you got the realtor saying, "Oh, this place is great. You're going to be right next to a park. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, I don't really want to be next to a park because there's a lot of crimes that happen in parks. And there's a lot of situations and issues and things with maybe drugs or what. There's actually a lot of house burglaries that happen near parks or near school zones.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's a lot of things that we learn by being in law enforcement or being a prosecutor or in the criminal justice system that we actually don't want, that most people think is a benefit when really in reality.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Well, Adam, I'm going to open it up and see if you have
Yeah.
any other thoughts that you want to share with my audience or yours in terms of criminal defense. Is there anything you kind of want to shout from the rooftop and tell the people?
Oh, I could talk for hours about this, but just generally speaking, thinking before you act is very important. Before, being cognizant of who you're around, where you go, who you're in the car with, different things like that. Just be careful out there because the police don't really realize the impact that they can have even just by arresting somebody. Even an arrest alone, it can affect up to 3 generations deep of your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for example, for lawyers, if you get arrested, you have to report it. If you want to be, you have to report to the bar. You have to kind of follow up with that. As lawyers, we kind of take our lawyership everywhere we go. We don't get to stop being lawyers. So anytime, like a doctor, they could get a DWI and
Right.
still be a doctor. An accountant could still be an accountant. Most professions can still continue, but when you're a lawyer and you get any type of, we're supposed to be a little bit above the law in terms of the reproach situation, above reproach. So yeah, it could definitely impact not just your livelihood but a whole generation. Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Adam, I'm glad I know you. I'm glad you're my friend. And for everyone listening, definitely keep Adam's number in your cell phone, in unlikely event that anybody should need it. I'm happy you're around.
Yeah, thanks so much. Oh, again, you're a great friend as well, Odelia, and thank you so much for having me here. Anything I can do to just pass on a little wisdom, help others, anybody can reach me anytime. Adam at RossenLawFirm.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I tend to be pretty easy to find.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything that you know. I really appreciate you. Guys, don't sleep on this. Get yourself
Yeah.
a criminal defense attorney friend.
Yes.
You've been tuning in to the Adulting Demystified podcast with your host, Odelia Goldberg. You should never get legal advice from a podcast. Please don't do anything stupid and ruin it for the rest of us. You deserve to have your own legal advice from a legal professional. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on our website, ogoldberglaw.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.